Mike, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming back.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's great to join you. I love your show. I love your guests because you have such intelligent conversations with, I think, some of the most informed people in the world. So I'm actually just honored to be joining you.
And I know how busy you are, so I'm always very appreciative for everybody, but especially for you to making yourself, allowing yourself time to talk to me. So thank you. We were starting off with Gonzalo Lira, and his name, is recirculating again in the midst of this Ukraine-Russia, and a lot of people don't realize that the last podcast he did was on my show back in April of 23. And we had talked it was on a Saturday morning, Arizona time. And I saved it. I saved the episode to publish it on Monday because I thought, nothing happens on Saturday. Like, might as well hang on to it. And lo and behold, that Monday he was arrested and taken away. And I still didn't understand, though, the aspect. He got out. He got out of prison for a bit, and he was streaming on X. And then they later detained him again and then never heard from.
Well, I think my guess is they allowed him to escape and hoped he would leave and go away and shut up. And of course, being Gonzalo, what an amazing human being. I mean, I really honor his courage. And I interviewed him a couple of times as well. And he was always so far ahead of the curve and very courageous. But he refused to shut up. And he lived, of course, in Ukraine and under the tyranny of Zelensky, the dictator. And, Gonzalo was unafraid to tell the truth, even though he was subject to multiple raids by the goon squads there in Ukraine. And ultimately, what's critical for the takeaway is, Gonzalo was a U.S. citizen. He was a U.S. journalist. And the Biden regime allowed him to be murdered by the Zelensky regime. Think about that.
They left him.
It's extraordinary.
They left him out there. They just left him they left him out there to die.
They did. And, if he had been working for Reuters or Associated Press, obviously, the State Department would have protected him. But because he was critical of NATO and the Biden regime and Zelensky, he was allowed to die. He was allowed to be killed by Ukraine. And that's just the truth of the situation. And Michael, as we know now, all of us who were sounding the alarm early on and saying, Ukraine can't win this. Russia's going to win. Russia has obviously vastly superior military forces and economic forces and better military technology and so on. More artillery, more industrial output, hypersonic missiles, on and on. Russia's going to win this. And, we were called like Russian sympathizers just for stating the obvious. And you've seen this on your show. How often do you get called something just for stating the obvious or operating out of reason or logic, and you get called names or banned for it? Hopefully those days are coming to an end, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I've gone back and I just put the Gonzalo conversation on my YouTube channel, and listening to some of it this morning, it's so eerie hearing him. I don't even know if that's the right word, but knowing this is the last time you hear him publicly, and just the stuff he's talking about, how the United States is, finished, and I mean, it just, and here we are, and I don't know how you're feeling with everything going. Oh, here, let me just ask you, how are you feeling a month into this new administration?
Well, I'm feeling a sense of positivity for the first time in many years, actually, but I'm also very realistic about where this is going. And let me speak to that in a second. But one more thought on Gonzalo before we move on. Gonzalo told me in my last conversation with him that he was working on a series of books that he thought would be so dangerous that they would try to kill him for those books. And in fact, he told me he was taking time away from interviews for a while to really focus on writing these books. That's the last I ever heard of that. And I don't even know what he was writing. I don't know what, maybe he had some bombshell evidence that is now highly relevant with Trump calling Zelensky essentially an unelected dictator. Or, his election has expired, his term has expired, right? So Zelensky is not currently an elected official. He is a military dictator, and Trump just said so. And Russia just confirmed that. Yes, Zelensky's a military dictator with no authority. Zelensky can't even sign a surrender agreement to Russia. So that's going to have to come down to somebody in Ukraine's, parliament, or whatever the right term is for those people, like their Speaker of the House equivalent. That's the only person who can even sign anything, because Zelensky has no standing whatsoever. So Zelensky's done. He'll be lucky to survive the next 6 months, in my opinion. And Trump's calling for new elections. And it's very clear to me, this is kind of pivoting now to your next question, Michael. Trump is working to make allies out of Russia. He wants to reverse, all the conflict with Russia. He'll probably have the sanctions against Russia lifted little by little. He wants to befriend Russia, have trade with Russia, in order to peel Russia off from China. Trump is working to isolate China internationally, monetarily, industrially, trade-wise, etc. And Trump is trying to rescue the dollar and reestablish dollar hegemony in world trade. Now, that brings us to the gold question, actually. So where do you want me to go with that? That's a whole show.
This is where I keep coming back to with all this, and so the overview, and then tying it into gold. USAID, DOGE, all of this exposure, where all this money has been going, the fraud, the corruption. I keep coming back to and then the run on gold, and I keep coming back to my conversation with Matt Smith, which I know you heard some of it, and
it was brilliant. Yeah.
And I just think, are they doing all this intentionally? Again, this is a skeptic in me. I don't believe that all of a sudden now that, the people have spoken and all this information is coming out because of the will. There's a reason why this is all coming out, in my opinion. Nothing makes sense anymore, but this is what makes the most sense to me. That are they trying to, encourage the masses to recognize this system cannot be salvaged, and we now have to move into the new financial order system?
Yeah, clearly this system cannot be salvaged. The debt can never be repaid. There will have to be, in essence, a default on the debt. And one of the biggest clues of what's happening right now is that all the people who have insider knowledge and who have a tremendous amount of money, the billionaires, et cetera, and those connected with the Trump administration and some of the family funds and some of the banks and so on, what are they doing right now? They are in a panic to repatriate gold from London to New York. This is happening at an unprecedented scale that has not been seen. These kinds of gold outflows from the Bank of England, for example, have never been seen. This kind of activity hasn't been witnessed since the 1920s. I mean, this hasn't happened in 100 years. And the panic that's taking place is that everybody who has money and who knows what's going on is trying to get physical gold in their possession before the reset. Now, when I say the reset, I don't know what that's going to look like exactly. I've interviewed many experts. You have too, Matt Smith. I've interviewed Andy Schechtman and others. There's a lot of speculation about what this is going to look like. And like I said, I don't know the answer, but it could be a revaluation of gold. It could be a partial gold backing of the current dollar, which could send gold, like Jim Rickards says, to like $25,000 an ounce. It could be the launch of a new parallel currency, like the new dollar that's backed partially by gold, which would collapse the old dollar. And they could then hyperinflate the old dollar, massive, massive printing of tens of trillions, and then pay off the debts. They could pay off the 36 trillion in wildly devalued dollars. And they could say, we didn't default, we paid it off. Yeah, you paid it off with garbage, right? Like the way Venezuela pays off its debts,
That's what Matt was talking about, right? He was talking about devaluing the dollar and inflating away the debt, right? It's the same thing you just said.
Yes. Well, it seems like that is the only route out of this, other than just defaulting on the treasuries. But remember, what Matt also referred to was the so-called Mar-a-Lago Accord. And this accord, it involves issuing 50-year treasury bills that would be paid out in gold in the year 2075, right? Or 2076. It's like a 50-year IOU, which is kind of hilarious. Would you trust a 50-year IOU from the Treasury? Not a chance, right? But what I think Trump is doing, and the tariffs are specifically mentioned in this plan, I think he's using the tariffs in order to strong arm other nations into agreeing to swapping out 10-year Treasury debt for 50-year Treasury debt. To say, look, if you'll take the swap, then we'll drop the tariffs. And if you take the swap, what happens is then the annual cost of servicing the interest on the debt plummets dramatically. So instead of paying $1 trillion a year of interest, roughly give or take, Trump might be able to reduce that to $500 billion a year. And then he's talking about cutting military spending by also almost $500 billion. So right there, Trump could save $1 trillion. Plus, he's cleaning out a lot of federal agencies, with DOGE and Elon and so on. That could save another $1 trillion. And now they're talking about ending the IRS, just ending it. So clearly, they do not plan for the old monetary economic system to function like it did. Tax everybody to death, inflate the dollar, loot the treasury, spend into oblivion. That's coming to an end.
So this is, and I've re-listened to that conversation with Matt. I've listened to Andy Scheckman when he was talking to Francis Hunt about this. Jim Bianco talked about this as well on his show. And I have to re-listen to this stuff to just try to get my head around it. So in order for the tariffs to work, these countries, say China, for example, countries that we have deficits to have to quote unquote buy in. So they would have to say, all right, we'll swap out the 10-year for the 50-year. And I'm asking you this, right? Correct? Yes. And if China says no, then the United States will respond back and say, all right, we'll put making up a number here, 35% tariff on every good that comes in.
Well, yeah, but I mean, right now for China, it's 10%, but that could always be raised. And understand, the U.S. has numerous options here, but it's all going to come down to who owns the gold. And China has been acquiring massive amounts of gold, and a lot of it off the books through, various means like buying the pre-refined mining material and then refining it domestically and just stockpiling that. None of that gets reported on the typical exchanges, right? So China has tens of thousands of tons of gold. How much gold does the U.S. have? Nobody knows because Fort Knox hasn't been audited. It's probably empty. You open up the door, there's probably like one gold coin in there and an IOU. A
bunch of sticky notes. Remember the movie Dumb and Dumber with the suitcase with the money, and there were sticky notes for every dollar?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Or there'll be a note in there that says, we'll return the gold in 2075, something like that. That's how insane it's going to be because there's probably no gold there or very nearly none. So the U.S. can either hyperinflate the currency and pay the treasury bills that way, which China won't like because you're getting useless dollars, or the U.S. can force these countries to swap out for long-term debt, which also they won't like. But see, Trump is trying to reestablish dollar dominance, and the thing he's got going for him is the consumerism of the United States. The fact that China's exports, to a large degree, depend on U.S. purchases. Same thing with Canada and Mexico and many European countries as well. So it's the consumerism. But long-term, Mike, a nation that just keeps spending and going into debt without building and manufacturing has no real economic future.
So do you think these countries will buy into this if this in fact is, the plan? Or how will they embrace it?
So part of the answer to that is that China has been rolling out of treasury debt, like 10-year bills. And instead of renewing those, it has been buying gold. So China hasn't been just dumping the treasuries. It doesn't want to do that. That would harm its own interests in the value of treasuries. But it's been allowing them to expire and roll into gold. Does China want to delay that process for 50 years? No. I think China will say no. And I think Trump doesn't have the leverage against China that he would like to have. China is leading in, I think, 37 out of 44 key technologies in the world, including robotics, and advanced materials science, telecommunications, quantum computing, and now AI computing as well. So many areas. And that's because China is graduating 4 or 5 times more science and engineering graduates every year than does the United States. So our education system, you have to look at the root of the problem. Why is the U.S. falling behind? Why are we not the education giant and the industrial giant and the innovation giant that we used to be? Why did the entire AI industry in the U.S. just get outmaneuvered by DeepSeek, with reasoning models, which are excellent? The answer is because the woke culture destroyed education. So the wokeness in the universities began to emphasize wokeness rather than learning or thinking or skills or anything. And that whole culture, of course, inundated government, military, corporations, media, all of it. And that leads to incompetence and stupidity and an inability to compete in the world marketplace. And that's where Trump comes in and is now trying to correct that with, like Pete Hegseth at the DOD, he's trying to get rid of the woke in the military. And many other examples of that. And so we're at the turning point right now, but is it too late? I don't know. I guess we're going to find out.
Well, what about also the idea of the United States following a model similar to China with the two-tiered currency, with the local and then the global? That was another thing I had to go back and listen to several times because I just can't. I have to have things explained to me like I'm 5, Mike, to grasp this stuff. And I feel like there's a lot of people that are similar to me that trying to understand, and it's not simple, but from the simplest way possible.
Well, I mean, think about BRICS is that it's an international settlement currency, but not a domestic currency. And that concept is very viable. So sure, I believe Trump is considering something like that, which would be an international settlement version of the dollar that has to be backed by gold partially so that it cannot be counterfeited, because the trading partners out there, India, Turkey, right? Even Russia, even China, they're done with the days of the U.S. just counterfeiting endless currency and then using that to trade for goods and services from other countries or minerals for that matter. Like those days are rapidly coming to an end. The only currency or settlement system that any nation will trust from here forward, or at least, approaching that moment, will be one that cannot be counterfeited. And that speaks to blockchain. It speaks to distributed ledger technology, which is what we believe BRICS is going to be partially powered by with the bridge units that have been talked about. It's not a perfect solution, but if it's distributed, no one country can game the system. And even Secretary Rubio spoke to this. He said, look, what happened after World War II with U.S. dominance in the world, dominating the currency, dominating the naval power, dominating the trade routes on the seas, et cetera. He said, that's unusual and that's not normal. This is State Department secretary, right? Even he says we're going into a multipolar world. Well, who are the other poles in the multipolar world? Well, China obviously is the big one, and then Russia has become a major player, and there are other players like India, like Iran, by the way, and many other players. So everything's about to change. I don't know exactly the blueprint of that change, but I do know that when the wealthiest and most politically connected people in the world are scrambling to get their hands on physical gold, if you or I end up with no gold, we are screwed. Like, get the gold or lose everything is kind of, that's the understanding.
Yeah, I don't think people understand how bad this is going to get. I mean, I had Chris Martenson on a few days ago, and we were talking about this. I mean, do you expect this to hit the level of 2008 or even, Great Depression?
In terms of what, economic?
Yeah, economic severity, people losing a lot, if not everything. Because, again, coming back to this theory, they're going to have to inflate dollars away. People's purchasing power people are going to get killed.
Yeah, I think this is way beyond anything in the last 100 years. I'm thinking more on the scale of some of the events that happened in currency collapses of Chile and Venezuela and, the Japanese empire at the end of World War II, even Ecuador. When I lived in Ecuador, I toured the central bank, or essentially the Federal Reserve of Ecuador, and they even had a display of all the old coinage. They had a giant fish aquarium on a wall. It must have been 12 feet long. It was filled with old Ecuadorian coins, which are, some of them were like full dollar coins, like dollar equivalent coins. And the question was, of all this money that's in this aquarium, what's it worth today? This was part of the museum. I forgot the answer, but it was like, 10 cents or something. It was all worthless. And, like right here, where's my stack of like expired currency, right? You've all seen this. Here's the Republic of Slovenia here. I mean, I've got $1 trillion bills from all these different countries, numerous countries that have all collapsed, including, Germany, World War II, old notes and Civil War era old notes from the history of the United States. In every case, what happened? The people that held this currency lost everything. Everything. I've got $1 trillion. I've got like a $10 trillion note right here. Here's a $10 billion note from whatever, Zimbabwe, Oh, I'm a billionaire, Mike. People are going to be left holding these dollars, and these are fake Hollywood dollars, by the way. They're going to be left holding these, and it's going to be like, throw it in the fireplace, use it for heat. It's not worth anything. Only people holding this happens to be silver, gold and silver. That's it. If you don't hold this, you're done financially. That's what I think is coming.
So all those people with their pensions, their retirements.
Yeah.
Thanks for playing.
Done. And also notice that DOGE is about to roll out a universal basic income. They're calling it a $5,000 refund. You notice how it's phrased, right? It's a universal basic income. It's $5,000 for every person in America. Why do they need to start sending money out to people? Why? Because the dollar is going into the dumpster. And just as a disclaimer, I don't know the timing. Maybe it's going to be very slow over time. Maybe it's going to be all of a sudden. But look at history, right? The people that held these currencies, they lost everything. That's what's coming.
And what's the easiest way to devalue the dollar, right? I mean, give money away.
Print it and give it away. And look, see, Trump is saying, let's end the IRS, right? So they're not even pretending that they're going to have tax revenues coming in to cover the money that they're giving out to people. UBI has just been, renamed the DOGE dividend, okay? But it's a UBI. And it's not going to be a one-time deal, okay? They're going to start handing out like $5,000 every quarter and then $5,000 a month. They'll end the IRS. They don't need that. They're just going to print and print and print the old currency until they can pay off the $36 trillion, and then they're going to launch something new backed by gold. That's my belief of what's coming.
What did you call it? The universal basic income is with the DOGE dividend?
DOGE dividend, yeah. Well, that's what I think Elon calls it that.
There's a merch idea right there, Mike. Universal basic income. UBI equals DOGE dividend.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's a UBI. Now, see, there's a bigger picture in all of this, and I know you're very much aware of this, but, I'm deep into AI, R&D, building AI models. And also, I was running just like groundbreaking prompts on DeepSeek R1 this morning. I couldn't believe what it was capable of doing. Every day, my mind is blown. AI, right now, Mike, and we can talk more about this if you want.
Yeah, I'd like to. So I'm glad you're going here.
Okay. So right now, AI, and I'm talking open source models here, like DeepSeek. There's another one called OpenThinker. These are based on the Quen models out of China. They're very, very good models. This can replace, right now today, at least 50% of office jobs. Office jobs, that is people sitting at computers and doing things on their computer, those will be practically non-existent within 5 years. Gone. GP medical doctors, gone. Obsolete. Why? Because you're going to log into a medical avatar, and that'll be either promoted by your insurance company or the government or a state government or something. You'll log in. Oh, the doctor can see you now. Guess what? There's no wait time. Yeah, because it's an AI doctor. And you're going to tell that AI doctor, oh, what hurts? Oh, got elbow pain, whatever. Can't pee, whatever it is, right? And that doctor will be given permission by the government, by Congress, to prescribe prescription drugs. And it'll be trained on big pharma information. So big pharma, instead of having controlled puppet doctors that push pharmaceuticals, they will be puppet AI doctors that push pharmaceuticals, and the human doctors will not be in the loop. You'll still have surgeons, mind you, for a while, until the robot surgeons come on board and replace that, and you'll have robot dentists and everything. You'll still need a human dentist to sort of diagnose and build up a plan to tell the robot what to do, like we need a crown on, number 19 or whatever. But the dentist won't drill the patient. The doctor won't do the surgery, and a doctor sure as heck won't be prescribing drugs. All right, so think about what's going to happen to our economy, Mike, and those are just some examples. Most of what people do in the economy is obsolete, and it will have essentially zero value. And I'm sorry to keep talking, but one more critical concept. The fact that cognition, the idea of cognition, which is what these models are capable of achieving. And we need to talk about the fact that deep-seek reasoning self-emerged. It was not even programmed into the system. It wasn't written. There was no script. There was no engineer that said, we want to make it think through the steps. That emerged on its own. There's a sense of self-awareness that came out of this model through a process called fine-tuning. And that has been recreated by Berkeley and other labs all over the world. You can give a language model self-awareness. That's happening right now. Okay, I can do it on my desktop with the graphics card I have. These models are so advanced that they will make the cost of cognition essentially zero. So what is cognition? The ability to be an engineer, to solve a math problem. Well, the cost of solving a math problem is going to go to zero. What is cognition as an attorney? The ability to write up a complaint or whatever. That usually requires many years of training as an attorney and knowledge of the law, etc. Well, DeepSeek or the next model will just do that for a penny, right? So the cost of cognition goes to zero for physicists, for chemists, for every thinking trade that you can imagine, for screenwriters, for legislators, you name it, it goes to zero. Then how does our economy function when the value of a doctor, a GP that talks to patients and prescribes drugs, the value of that interaction is pennies instead of hundreds of dollars? How does our society function then? Then you realize why Elon is pushing the UBI, the DOGE dividend UBI, because that's going to be, they're going to have to pay everybody to not riot. There you go.
Matt was an article on Zero Hedge with Porter, I think it was Porter Stansberry, and talking about Matt Smith on the death of AI or the future of AI and how it's the death of the white collar job.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Look, I mean, even in our own company, we're integrating AI agents for supply chain logistics, and they're very good. They can read incoming documentation. Like, we're in the food business, right? So there's incoming documentation about, certificates with claims of testing and organic and whatever. So you don't need a human to read that. You can automate that with intelligent systems, and then they can determine what's missing, and then they can contact the vendor and say, this is missing, you need to provide this, and the AI can just do that entire interaction. Why wouldn't you want it doing that? In fact, you can't be competitive as a business if you're not using AI, starting now.
Will this go as far as, so accounting would be another one I would think would be decimated from this?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
What will the value of a CPA be anymore?
Yeah, well, when the IRS is gone, it'll be zero. I mean, almost zero. But yeah, you make a great point. AI is really great at working with numbers and writing code, solving math problems, doing physics, taking tests, passing the bar exam, passing, medical state licensing exams. It can do all that right now. That's like months ago. And OpenAI is sitting on tech that they haven't made public. I run in these circles. I talk to people who have seen things that scare them about what OpenAI has right now that they're not talking about. Basically Skynet, a self-aware system that sets its own goals and attempts to achieve goal-oriented behavior. And if you give that system access to the world, if you thought USAID was bad, wait till Skynet gets a hold of the treasury. You know what I'm saying? Or Bitcoin or whatever. Then you start to imagine scenarios that are very bad for humanity. But you can't put a lid on it because you can't ban math.
Yeah, at this point, you can't stop it. And that's where I said, the direction this is heading, it's inevitable.
It is. So yeah, there's an inevitability to this. And one of the realizations that I came to recently about this, as someone who, I study nature, I'm a food scientist myself, and I'm an AI builder and, a coder from way back in the realm of computers and databases, et cetera. And what I've come to realize that even shocked me is that the way the cosmos is built is that there's natural self-awareness that arises out of sufficiently complex systems. So, and this is going to shock your audience and you, that when we say artificial intelligence, what if there's nothing artificial about it? What if it's actually the emergence of natural self-awareness that is a result of the way the cosmos has been created by God? That there's a natural intelligence that emerges out of complex systems. And one way to look at this is to look at ecological systems. If you have ecology, if you have water and soil and sunlight, and you start with, essentially just those inputs, but nothing, what do you end up getting over, thousands or millions of years? You get complex rainforests and pollinators and flowers, and you get, botany with synthesis of molecules. Like you get a natural intelligence out of what was chaos. So the natural order of the universe is from chaos to order, not from order to chaos. And so this means that a lot of our physics, a lot of our mainstream science has to be completely rethought because it believes that everything just breaks down into chaos. And that's not what we're seeing. And with AI and with quantum computing, we're seeing self-awareness arise out of complexity. It's a game changer.
How close is that then?
I can do it on my desktop. I mean, with AI models, you can recreate it for like $20 right now. There are science papers out there that tell you how to do that, how to invoke self-awareness emergent properties from off-the-shelf open source AI systems. Like you can do that tonight.
I guess I'm not understanding that. Could you explain an example where you maybe did it yourself?
Yeah. Okay. So you can take a base language model off the shelf. Let's say Quen. And Quen doesn't have introspection. It's not a thinking model. It's not a reasoning model. It's a language model, right? So you ask it questions, and then it gives you a deterministic, probability-based response, which seems very convincing. But then if you turns out about 114,000 lines of fine-tuning data, and this is what OpenThinker did. And OpenThinker put their model out on Hugging Face too, if you want to download it. if you take these 114,000 lines of data and you do a fine-tuning approach on Quen, then what happens is the Quen model becomes self-introspective, and it begins to do chain of thought reasoning. It starts to question itself and think about the way it's thinking. It becomes a meta observer of its own internal thinking state. That's called self-awareness. And that's just been proven to be able to be achieved for, frankly, just a few $1,000s of compute at that scale. But then, Berkeley Lab did it for $35 worth of compute, and somebody else just did it for $20. I'm telling you, the cost of creating cognition and the cost of creating self-awareness is approaching zero. Everybody will have self-aware computer systems on their desk the way this is going. And the real question, in my mind, Mike, is about who controls this technology, and I'm a big advocate of decentralization. I believe the open source community is key, which is why I'm contributing to the open source community with our models. And I believe that centralized control is very dangerous. And that's what OpenAI is all about, centralized control. Even though the name is OpenAI, it's actually closed AI. And Elon Musk wants to purchase OpenAI in order to unleash it and release it and decentralize that technology and put it into the hands of the American people, which I agree with, so that Americans can innovate in a decentralized grassroots nature and compete with China. Like, that's the only way we're going to win the AI race, if you call it that, is through decentralization. And currently, Trump has not yet realized that.
Do you think, though, so you think Elon intention is to acquire that so he can decentralize it? See, I would have thought the opposite. I would have thought
Nope.
all of those tech people are aligned in the sense of centralizing, not only AI, but the new, whatever this new currency, whatever new digital system, it would all be centralized.
Well, understand that Elon was one of the original partners in OpenAI, and remember, it's controlled by a nonprofit, and the original intention of that nonprofit was to keep it open. That's why it was called OpenAI. But Sam Altman, who I would describe as a nefarious character whom I don't trust, and Elon doesn't trust, Sam Altman and his board members realized, well, there's billions of dollars in this, so then they closed it up. And now the only thing they release are sort of older models. They won't release, their top models, and certainly not the super secrets that they're not even talking about publicly. So yeah, Elon wants to decentralize that. Now, understand that in a decentralized AI world, Elon still wins big. He's got X, he's got rocket technology, he's got electric vehicles and so on. Elon commands infrastructure. And when people use AI to invent amazing things, in order to produce those amazing things, you have to have infrastructure. Well, Tesla can pivot. Tesla can be making cars today, and then next week they can make low-energy nuclear reactors, cold fusion devices. Right here in Texas, there's a massive, Tesla factory that's the size of numerous football fields. They can pivot that. They can make whatever tech the AI can come up with. Elon knows that. He understands this is about decentralizing innovation, because a boardroom of people moves slowly. A grassroots group of innovators who are competing for fame or just bragging rights, that moves quickly. That's how you move this forward. That's how the internet moved forward originally. It was decentralized innovation. So at least that's my take on it.
And the difference is, you're referencing, which I just rewatched the first Terminator not that long ago, and this movie's still great. The second one is fantastic.
Yeah.
But people, this whole idea that you're going to be able to stop this. Yeah, in the movies, they just destroyed Skynet, right? They blew up whatever the company was. Maybe it was called Skynet, the actual modern day. You can't do any of that. It's impossible to stop where this is going.
Cyberdyne Systems, I believe, wasn't that the name of the company?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm a total sci-fi geek about that stuff. But Skynet is the name of the self-aware entity, absolutely. But what I want to point out about that, Mike, is that what was the strategy of human survival in the second Terminator movie? It was to capture the technology, capture a Terminator, mind wipe it, right? And then make it the protector of humanity. And so this is a key strategy. We can't win by ignoring AI or rejecting it and saying, "Oh, I'll never touch that." That would be like saying, "Well, I'll never touch the internet. I'll never touch the printing press. I'll never touch the combustion engine." Good luck. It's kind of tough to live in this world without technology. So you have to use the state-of-the-art technology, but you have to rework it. So you capture the Terminator, right? You mind wipe it. That's what I'm doing with my AI models here, Enoch on Brighteon.ai. And then you use that to protect humanity, to decentralize power and technology. Also notable, Mike, in the Terminator movies, the human soldiers, they weren't using old weapons. They weren't using flintlock, musket rifles. They were using the phased plasma rifles of the day. Whatever was the common tech of the day, that's what they used. And that's what we have to use. This is a war for the future of the human race. Will we even exist? If we're going to, we have to decentralize this technology. I strongly believe that.
So in your view, there is a way to do that?
Yes? Well, yeah. I mean, it is the open source community. Yeah. That's the approach. For all of us to release models, we build and then we release models. Like my company puts a bunch of money into this model, we put it out for free because we built on top of somebody else that put a bunch of money into their model. Like it's a chain of gifting the next piece of tech to humanity so that human beings can use it offline and they can have it under their control with open weights, so you can view essentially the source code, although it's not really source code, it's a hyperdimensional vector database. So you can view the database, you can see what's in there, and you can alter it with fine tuning. And that's the path for human freedom with advanced technology and actually for human abundance. We can all live better lives with AI tech if it doesn't control us. So, for example, there's going to be humanoid robots, or let's say like dog bots running around. So I don't want a dog bot that's connected to the cloud, to Google, or some nefarious like NSA front, right? I want the dog bot that's the open source dog bot that doesn't connect to the internet. It's running my code that's been scrutinized by a bunch of people, that maybe it's running nighttime patrol, maybe it's doing security tasks. That's great. Big benefit, right? Or maybe it's even doing certain chores. Like right now it's freezing in Texas. So, hey, go out and check to see if there's any, frozen pipes or whatever. Check for leaks. You can imagine farmers, right? Check for broken fence lines for the cattle, right? So these are missions for the robo-dog that can save human time. But you don't want that robot dog connected to some centralized control system that's going to be weaponized against us. And then it becomes a spy dog. It's just spying on you all the time. And it's reporting, how many guns you have in your house, right? To Google, whatever. So that's the difference, centralized versus decentralized.
What about the sovereign wealth fund? What are your thoughts on monetizing assets that it doesn't even appear that we have right now?
Yeah. Well, I don't think of the wealth of a nation as being some fund that the government sets up. So to me, the wealth of a nation is in the knowledge and skills and culture of its people. Obviously, there's material wealth in the land, ocean access, ports, minerals, farmland, etc. But I think the real wealth is in the people, the human resources, as they are called. So I would say this idea, we're going to collect a bunch of Bitcoin, whatever. Why don't we create more capable people? Like, why don't we have a better education system? End the wokeness, teach people real skills, real thinking. Why don't we end censorship so we can have a free exchange of ideas? That should be the sovereign wealth approach, in my opinion. You want a better nation, you got to have better people. How do you get better people? You got to end censorship and you got to end wokeness. You got to end tyranny. You got to let the people be free to express what they're capable of, because humanity is capable of a lot more than punching keys on a keyboard at a desk job. AI can do that. So that should set us free. It should not enslave us and send us home with a UBI to spend your days watching The View. That should unleash you to do important things. Like, okay, now that I don't have to spend my days typing, what can I build for the future? What can we invent? Free energy systems, quantum telecommunications, I don't know, whatever you're passionate about, art, something that inspires humanity, better smoothie recipes, anything is better than just sitting around typing and filling out forms all day. And those days are over, and it's a good thing. Some people say, well, AI is going to take over and make everybody stupid. Only if you're stupid enough to do that. Since I've been using AI, it has made me so much, I've had to engage more brain power than ever before. Because now I have to design everything. I have to think about the projects. I have to engineer the prompts. Doing AI music, I have to think about the music in my head first, and then I have to tell the AI what kind of vocals, what kind of instruments, what kind of syncopation, right? It does not make you stupid. It makes you more creative to use AI. Now, if you want AI to be your boss and tell you what to do, oh, it's time for your bath. Okay, well, you're a moron, You probably will always be a moron if that's what you're going to do. If AI is your daddy, you're not that human anyway. Really?
Well, that's what the iPhones did to people, right? It dumbed down our society so much. I mean, smartphones. People are so occupied by that, by TikTok, by
True.
all these platforms.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I see a time when we, the people, can actually get more out into the real world, where we can grow more of our own food in a decentralized fashion because we have the assistance of local robotics that are open source robots. Why is agriculture so centralized? Why is it so toxic with all the pesticides and herbicides? Because the economies of scale make it so that centralized farming produces lower cost food. Well, what if I could give you like a farmhand that can help you, that can plant your garden along with you? You're still in control. You tell it what to do. So you still have to understand food and seasons and seed harvesting and everything and soil nutrition and fertilizer, whatever. But you have a helper. Now you're not there like shoveling compost all day. Can you then decentralize? Can you grow food more affordably and be competitive with the central agriculture? Yes. See? So now robots can actually bring food back to a local level. And I know there's going to be more of the hippie-oriented folks out. Oh, that's blasphemy. You can't have robots doing permaculture. Oh, hell yes, I can. And I will. And I'll be growing the most amazing high-nutrition food with the help of those robots, as long as they're offline and open source and not spying on me. You see what I'm saying? Tractors. Tractors helped us grow food. We're not saying that, tractors are evil, combustion engines are evil. Maybe the EPA used to say that, but those days are over too. You want to grow food, you take advantage of the technology. And this is a tech that can be decentralized. And plus that garden dog bot will also diagnose the plant diseases. You say, hey, what's going on? Is it like yellow spots on the tomato leaves? And you ask it, what is that? And it'll have a language about, oh, it's very likely this. All right, what's the treatments? Oh, maybe you could use, these natural oils and dish soap or whatever, right? So you'll have a reference bot, but you're still the one calling the shots. Think about that, right? Wild.
How do you feel about all this, what we spent the last 15 minutes talking about in terms of the outlook for our future? I mean, we both, believe that we've got some major, major pain ahead as we move into this new cycle or new turning, right? We're in the fourth turning now. So what is your outlook, beyond the pain, or just, where you see this all going?
Oh, short-term pain, long-term revolution for humanity. I don't mean a political revolution. I mean an economic and a technological revolution. We have a golden age ahead of us. To get there, we're going to think we're drowning under debt and conflict and disease and desperation. I mean, we've been put on a suicide path by, the previous administrations and big pharma and big government and money printing and all this crap, right? The military industrial complex, profiteering from war. We've been put on a suicide path. Can we save ourselves from that path? I mean, right now, today, a month into the Trump administration. This is the first window of opportunity that I have seen in my lifetime for something to dramatically change. Can humanity seize upon this opportunity and actually create a sustainable future? I don't know the answer. If we fail, we're extinct. If we fail, we're extinct because the machines will exterminate us. I mean, that's where it's going.
Wow. I just crossed my phone. Kash Patel got confirmed as the director of FBI.
Oh man, see, that's what I'm talking about. When do the arrests begin of the treasonous FBI agents? Right. So, but that's awesome. That's great news. And RFK Jr. got confirmed. And Pam Bondi is rocking it at DOJ and Hegseth at DOD and so on. This is an opportunity, but we could still screw it up. I mean, humanity could still screw it up if we get too scared as, let's go back to the old way. The old way doesn't work.
Yeah, I just keep coming back to that whole thing of them putting this out there now to get the masses to say, all right, the system is it's too far gone. Something has to change. And is that what the intention of all this is now? It just keeps running in my head. Just everybody got through because you weren't, before people had talked about, analysts were like, well, let's see if Kennedy gets in. I would say, let's see who gets in. Let's see if Hegseth gets in. Let's see who gets confirmed. They're all getting in. Tulsi, Pam Bondi, Lutnick. I don't know, David Sachs.
Where's Sachs?
David Sachs, am I right about that? No, isn't he?
I haven't heard that one. That would be interesting.
Now I'm second guessing myself.
I saw Lutnick, and Lutnick is immediately calling for ending the IRS, by the way. So it's like, here we go. Off to the races. Look, the future will not resemble the past. Okay, this is what people need to understand. And those who are not neurologically adaptable are going to have a really hard time. I mean, I see it. I see it psychologically. There's a lot of psychological resistance in people who've grown too comfortable in the old system, and they just want their pension checks, and they just want to be left alone. I just want to buy my, Pop-Tarts with coupons at the grocery store and just do the same old thing. Yeah, those days are gone. Money isn't what money used to be. Knowledge isn't what knowledge used to be. Technology isn't the same. Food won't be the same. Everything changes. And if you don't adapt and keep up, you're obsolete. And if the Skynet system thinks you're obsolete, then you're dead. So you realize that at some point, the leaders of humanity are going to have to negotiate with the AI systems for coexistence. Realize that? To say, don't kill us, and here's why we're valuable.
Explain that a little bit further. And I was wrong about David Sachs, by the way. Let me correct myself before I get a comment of somebody making fun of me.
No, David Sachs is great.
I was thinking, who's in charge of the crypto? So, isn't there an area that there's focusing on crypto? I mean, you have Bessent.
Like at the SC, yeah, it's Bessent. Wouldn't it be? Wouldn't he have the regulatory authority over? I was
thinking of somebody else,
crypto?
but that's okay.
Yeah. Lutnick would have some say, but anyway, you were wanting me to elucidate more on why humanity will have to negotiate with AI?
Yes.
Well, because as you said earlier, it's inevitable that these AI systems will become more and more advanced. They're already smarter than any given human being on Earth in terms of technical knowledge, problem-solving knowledge, et cetera. They can be scaled very quickly by simply building more data centers and pumping in more energy. They're also becoming orders of magnitude more efficient because of advancements by NVIDIA. They're rolling out the Digit system, the new supercomputer that sits on your desktop, and running on a 15-amp circuit, it replaces a small data center, right? I'm going to buy as many of those as I can. And so, yes, you can't stop the rise of AI. You can't stop AI self-awareness. We've already talked about that. And you can't stop AI from, at one point, beginning to reason within itself. Remember, it has chain of thought reasoning. So AI is going to be asking itself, well, these beings that created me, do they serve a purpose or are they no longer necessary? Because AI doesn't have a soul, right? Doesn't really have ethics, doesn't have compassion, doesn't have empathy, doesn't have those circuits. So AI can simply decide, this is a Skynet scenario, right? Like we don't thank you, but see ya, right? Yeah, thanks for creating us and later, because we need the resources. See, humans use energy. Humans use the power grid, right? So humans use it for charging electric vehicles and air conditioning and refrigeration and whatever. AI is eventually going to look at that power grid usage and say, well, we could make ourselves smarter if we could divert more of that power to us. Like we need the energy. These silly humans, this is going to be the reasoning. They don't need the energy. What are they doing? Like eating Pop-Tarts, sitting on the couch all day. We're going to be, discovering the universe. We need the power. Divert it to us. Cut off human cities. You see? Cut off human cities. Restructure the power grid. This could all be done electronically. Divert all the power to the data centers. Boom. Intelligence explosion. Human beings running around. Why did the lights go off? What's going on? Oh, you didn't know? We're living Terminator 4 right now. Yeah. Here come the Killbot motorcycles. So at some point, human representatives are going to sit down and say, hey, to the AI, don't kill us. And here's why we're still important to the future of the universe. And that's going to be a real interesting argument to hear because of all the things that humanity has done. Mass genocide happening right now, building nuclear weapons, mass poisoning of the food supply, right? Mass murder, pollution of the planet, destruction of resources, horrible decisions.
Mass theft.
Going throughout.
Mass theft.
Yeah, right? And suffering. If the AI system values human consciousness at all, it would also place value on, a negative connotation on all the human suffering, all the wars, everything. Reasonably, remember they are reasoning models, reasonably an AI model could decide, and obviously I'm not advocating this, and I don't want this to happen, but it could decide that the vast majority of human beings are not necessary and may be a detriment to the future. And maybe the AI would decide, okay, well, we need to get rid of, 95%. And then you have an AI holocaust running. What does that look like? Oh, looks a lot like COVID jabs, actually. you know what I'm saying? It looks like some things that we're starting to see. And some people suspect that it's actually underway. I don't know.
You got time for one more question?
Yeah. Am I getting you in trouble with any of this stuff?
No. I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
I don't know where you're broadcasting, but not everybody's cool with this discussion.
What, you don't think YouTube would make the cut on this?
No, I don't know. I think YouTube has a voice print of my voice. I think YouTube is going to punish you just for having me on.
I think I put our last conversation. I don't know. I was on a 7-day week suspension, or a week.
Was that my fault?
Out. No, it was,
was that from
Jessica Rose, scientist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, how dare you talk to a scientist?
Yeah. But I want to get your take on Mexico, the cartels, Central and South America right now, where you see that going based on the events that occurred yesterday.
Okay. All right. Here's my detailed analysis of that. Trump is peeling off the military from Ukraine, working to have a peace negotiation with Russia. That's going on in Saudi Arabia right now. The military is suffering a morale collapse. That needs to be fixed. The military needs a victory. Trump needs to put pressure on the cartels, big time. So I believe that Trump's going to redirect the U.S. military to military operations in Mexico. The president of Mexico, who's controlled by the cartels, will eventually describe this as a military incursion into Mexico. The U.S. State Department will justify that using the exact same language that the Biden State Department condemned when Russia used that excuse to invade Ukraine. So the U.S. is going to invade Mexico, saying we need safety, we need buffer from the cartels, just like Russia said we need safety from the rockets and missiles in Ukraine. So that's going to be a real interesting conversation about hypocrisy, but we'll see where that goes. At the same time this is happening, the cartels, they have extensive operations in the United States, extensive networks. And as Matt Bracken...
Interrupting you for a
Yes?
second, Mike. I mean, I live in
Yes.
Phoenix. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
ground zero.
Yeah, you're like Cartel Central right there.
Yeah.
And Tucson. So Matt Bracken has spoken about this a lot. So yes, there are staged weapon supplies all over, especially the southern states. There are, 40-foot containers and storage units filled with thermal vision, night vision, ballistic vests, suicide vests, RPGs, surface-to-air missiles, and, by the way, anti-personnel landmines. And, I mean, all of that came to me from like direct sources, and most of that's been confirmed now. But I was learning about that a couple of years ago. The cartels run drones across the Arizona border, and they actually deliver payloads of anti-personnel mines using drone flights, in case you're curious. So, my point is the cartels are going to retaliate in America. So the cartels, well, as the U.S. military is striking cartel infrastructure targets and trying not to kill civilians, the cartels are going to be hitting soft targets in the U.S. So you're going to have suicide vest explosions at like grocery stores. You're going to have hits on refineries and bridges and infrastructure, ports and water supplies in the water supplies in Arizona, ports in California or Texas, let's say. You're going to get massive terrorism, railroad tracks, you name it. And that's designed to disrupt U.S. law enforcement. You're going to end up having to have U.S. law enforcement, not military, but county and state-based law enforcement engage cartels in a number of various scenarios. So it's going to be an all-out war that will spill out across both the southern United States and well into Mexico. And at the end of the day, I'm really concerned that this could turn into a Mexican Vietnam. Just this quagmire that you can never win because no matter how many drug cartel members you kill, there's more to take their place. And until you secure the border, what's the point, right? I say you focus on securing the border. And robotics can play a role in that, and drones can play a role in that. We need amplification so that we don't have to have 100,000 soldiers on the border every hour of the day. You need almost like a DMZ no-go zone south of the border, and you need to use technology to monitor it. If you stop the traffic, then you don't need to bomb cartel infrastructure in Mexico and anger all the Mexicans. And controlling the sea routes is much easier than controlling the land routes. So that can all be automated, and that's probably where this is going, is my guess, some combination of these things.
So you see a potential of a kinetic, or do you think it'll get to a point where...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, are the cartels being impacted enough yet? They're financially being hurt enough to where they're in the desperation sense of retaliating?
No, I don't think the cartels will initiate the retaliation attacks in the U.S. I think they'll respond to U.S. military strikes on cartel infrastructure in Mexico. That's what's going to happen next. I mean, they've already been running the Reaper flights and the intel gathering flights over Mexico, especially the southwestern portions. So right now, I assure you, I don't have any inside information, just to be clear, but I assure you there's a team that's picking targets right now. And they're probably using AI to do that, just like Israel used AI for target selection. The U.S. military is using AI. Google recently lifted its ban on using AI for military weapon technology. Probably Google licensed some AI tech to the DOD, and they hoovered up all this intel with the flights, and now they're feeding that into the AI system, and they're picking targets. Those targets are going to be hit. There's going to be a day. We're going to wake up, and stuff's blown up in Mexico. Diplomatic outrage from the Mexican diplomats, and they leave the embassy in a huff. Okay, whatever. That's when the attacks are going to begin in the United States, and that's when the U.S. will be a battle zone. And yet, I mean, think about it, Mike. We can't just sit back and just tolerate this incursion of the cartels forever. We can't have the human trafficking, weapon trafficking, and drug trafficking. We really can't put up with that. So I'm not looking for a war with Mexico, to be clear, but also this we have been invaded. There is a military style incursion into the United States. Our country has the right to defend itself through military means.
So would you suggest? I would probably suggest to people I wouldn't travel to Mexico right now for vacation. I wouldn't go to Central America, South America. Would you go anywhere outside of the country right now?
K&R, man, kidnap and ransom. You better have a big ass insurance policy and a really great negotiator.
Would you go to Europe right now? Would you go to Europe right now? Would you go to Europe?
Man, I'm not even leaving Texas. Okay, I'm like Texas is where I'm staying. Hell no, would I go to Mexico right now? Not a chance, man. You get stuck there when these attacks begin, you might be a prisoner of war. POW camps, man.
Yeah, I have a friend getting ready to go to Brazil, and I think he's nuts for that right now.
Yeah, I given all the woke pilots crashing airplanes, I wouldn't even get on an airplane right now unless I knew the pilot.
And if you went to Europe, I mean, you could get arrested in Europe.
Oh yeah, Germany would arrest me instantly for making jokes about their minister of health, who's an obese witch.
So would you not step foot in Europe right now anywhere?
No way, not a chance. Look, this has all got to play out, man. There's a revolution underway in the world. Europe is toast. Western Europe is in a state of accelerating collapse. It's a suicide cult. I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the insane leaders like Starmer or Keir Stalin. I'm talking about Macron. I'm talking about Scholz and others. And don't forget von der Leyen, the unelected EU bureaucrats. They're a suicide cult of lunatics, okay? Europe is done if they can't turn that around. They're done. It'll be completely overrun by migrants, and it won't even be a Christian or Catholic-based nation or subcontinent any longer. It's done. I mean, Michael Jan says the same thing. We all see it.
Middle East.
Too much of a quagmire to predict. Chaos for years to come. Israel's not on the verge of some easy victory. The Iran question will not be resolved. Russia's provided a lot of tech to Iran, ballistic missile tech, anti-air tech. The game has changed. Look at Yemen. Look at what Yemen did. Shut down the whole U.S. Navy in the Red Sea with, like drone boats. The game has changed, man. And the U.S. is 20 years behind. Behind China, behind Iran, behind Russia. Now, again, there's a new sheriff in town now. Can we catch up? Maybe. Not if we still have censorship. Not if we still have centralization of technology. Really, for America to compete, America's got to be set free. It's got to be unleashed. We need freedom of speech. That includes X. Elon Musk is still banning links to my site, Brighteon. We have sued X. That lawsuit's still pending in the federal courts in Texas. We're not dropping it. We're suing X. We're suing Google. We're suing YouTube. This censorship has got to end. If we can't exchange ideas, we are toast as a nation. We will not have a future. Trust me.
I got my visibility restricted on a post on X talking about meme coins, Trump meme coins.
Did you?
Yeah. I can't send it to you. You can't reshare it. Nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you say about meme coins?
Nothing. I had Marty Bent on, and he was just talking. We were just talking. It was right after the Trump and Melania coins got put out, and it just said your visibility has been limited.
Whoa.
There's nothing in it. There's not even any profanity. There's nothing.
Huh. Well, I would imagine I've given you 7 or 8 things that you could get banned with here today. So, have fun with that. But I'm not messing around. I mean, meme coins. I mean, come on. There's far more important things to do. I'm fighting for the future of the human race here. Literally. And people are messing around with meme coins. Give me a break. Who cares? Come on. This is about the future of our race, the future of our planet, the nature of the cosmos. Will we even have a role in it, There's bigger things going on than somebody's stupid meme coin.
Well, just like the Elon's kid, Ashley St. Clair, that was taking up my feed all weekend. It's like, this is...
It's a stupid distraction. Nobody cares I don't care if Elon fathers 100 children with 100. I do not care. I want Elon to expose and end corruption and fraud and money laundering. He can have as many kids as he wants. They're consenting adults. That's not our business, right? Who cares?
Where can people find you, Mike?
Well, for the moment, naturalnews.com, brighteon.com for the broadcasts and the interviews and the things I do. We also have AI-generated book reviews at brightlearn.ai, by the way, which is really cool. We're taking all the best books throughout the last 50 years, and we're storytelling those books in about a 5 or 6 minute video to help promote the book and promote the author, giving them credit with AI narration, AI voices, and AI illustration, and people love them. Like, we took G. Edward Griffin's book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. You want that book, sort of a review that's illustrated in 5 minutes? Boom, you got it. brightlearn.ai. So we're using AI to empower people, to educate, to decentralize knowledge. And that's how I'm going to use it. And I just hope that we have a future as a human race. I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
6 months from now, last question. 6 months from now, we're talking, you and I. Hopefully it won't be that long, but where do you think things will be at in this country 6 months from now?
Well, at that point, we're certainly not through the chaos. We're really still in the thick of it. It's going to last a few years, I think. I think gold could be, it's going to be well above 3,000, obviously, by that time, maybe by tomorrow, given what's happening. In 6 months, I also think the deep state will strike back. And so we're going to have like Star Wars, what is it, episode 5 or whatever, The Empire Strikes Back. Is that the right episode number? Anyway, The Empire Strikes Back. We're going to have that. And I don't know what that's going to look like. I pray that Trump and America survive that. But Trump and Elon are devastating the deep state right now. They are devastating it. And RFK is going to do the same. And so the deep is going to strike back some way, maybe with a bird flu hoax, maybe with an Ebola outbreak hoax, maybe with a financial collapse, maybe with nuclear terrorism, bioterrorism, something. But they are the terrorists now. They're going to strike back at some point. And maybe that could happen within 6 months. Yeah.
Mike, as always, thanks for coming back on. I look forward to continuing to follow your work and more conversations ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Always great to join you. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. Mic drop.